Hi, welcome to the channel. Today's video is titled What Makes Gen X Mothers So Unique? Jordan Peterson. Okay. We are going to check this video together, and I think there was a particular video about why young women are woke, and lots of people shared their thoughts regarding that. And I think somebody also talked about Gen X women. So I think that sort of got this video sort of got recommended. So yeah, we're gonna check this video together, and I love your thoughts and your contribution in the comments below. Let's dive right in.
Hi, Dr. Peterson. My name is Shauna, and my question is it seems like mothers from Gen X or before were made of sterner stuff and handled lots of responsibilities really well. And it seems like to me, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm involved in our community, in our church pretty heavily. And sometimes I feel like I have bitten off more than I can chew. So, my question is how can I basically assimilate all this responsibility in a way that's not overwhelming, and or what do we think is the secret sauce that older women understood that I may be missing now for how to juggle or manage all of the responsibilities that I have purposefully taken on, but that sometimes can seem overwhelming. Thanks, and that's all.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is sometimes seems overwhelming isn't too bad.
Mm,
Um, and that's especially true if you have really little kids, because that's overwhelming. That the first year in particular is overwhelming, and anything you do on top of that is going to be additionally overwhelming. So one of the things that you can understand is that the first year is going to be overwhelming, and that it will get progressively less overwhelming, but the first 3 years are pretty overwhelming, and that's particularly the case if you have multiple children. However, even though it seems like when you're in that's been that way forever and it's going to last forever, it doesn't. And 3 years is not very long. It's a weird thing because when you have kids, it isn't very long until it seems like you've always had them, and it's always just going to be like it is with these little kids. And that's just not true. That flies by in a flash. And so the first thing I would say is that your proclivity to feel overwhelmed is probably just accurate. And the fact that it's only sometimes, it's like, well, congratulations, because, if you were clinically depressed, for example, or had an anxiety condition, you would feel overwhelmed all
all
the
the
time,
time.
and it would be paralyzing. And so the fact that it's, phasic, that it's sometimes, I would just attribute that to situational issues.
Do you
I,
can do
yep,
you do you think that back in the day, so she was saying Gen X
yeah.
before that, do you think those mothers had more help from family? Like you see a lot of families now that have either moved to a different city and they're the nuclear family, but they don't have any friends with kids. There's no aunts and uncle. There's no grandparents around, so it's really just them raising their kids. Do you think if you just look backwards, there was more help? Because
Well,
that
I
might be
think
what
one
she's
of the,
seeing.
yes, I do think that. I think that one of the things that's happened, I've talked to people like Jonathan Haidt about the free range child idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that when I grew up, for example, or even when you grew up, but more particularly me, um,
Are you putting us in the
there
same
were,
age group now? Is
well,
this because I have 3 children?
yeah, fundamentally. And everyone between 30 and 70 is the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, um, there were networks of mothers that were the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
all gone.
I know.
And
true.
so it's a lot harder. Like it was easy to let your kids out on the street when every
Mm-hmm.
single person on the street knew who your kids were, or maybe
Yeah,
everyone in a 4 block radius. Well, that's
exactly.
all gone. That's all fractured. And it's one of the consequences of women entering the workforce en masse and staying there for a long time. Now, I'm not down on women because of that. I mean, it's really complicated because
Grandparents are also
when
missing.
well, there's that
Sure.
too, and that's partly because people are mobile, right? And they move to where the economic opportunities are. So, I mean, what we did when we went to Boston, when we moved to Boston, your mom and I, is we developed a network of family, of,
Mm.
of friends, other people with little kids quite quickly. And, we babysat for each other, and your mom took care of kids from the neighborhood. That was her job for a while. You have to, if you're overwhelmed, distributing the load is a a worthwhile aim. And you can certainly do that by sharing childcare with friends.
Let me even say this. I 100% agree with Jordan Peterson on this because, yeah, when he even said that, like, his age group and the 30s, yeah, like the same. Yeah. Because, I mean, I'm millennial and I grew up in that era where it was like community, it was a village raising people. Like when you look around, you don't know who from who, but you knew that lots of communities were around. Everyone, or there are people that are potentially watching you grow up when maybe your parents are not around. People sort of collectively are raising you because you know your parents are not around, but you have the assurance that, oh, my parents are not around, but there is another family or there's another a person or somebody else that is watching me, taking care of me, that I know that I can run to. You get? And that is beautiful. We lack that community now. I think I was also discussing this with a friend of mine, that you see where everybody want to sort of stay isolated. Oh, don't associate you tell your child, don't associate with this person because of this or whatever. When it makes no sense at all because how did we get here? You see that some people don't even know their next door neighbor. Is that bad? That people don't even know the next person or who is living close to them. Lots of people or lots of us were not raised that way. Lots of us were raised around communities, a group of families where you sort of started calling your neighbor auntie, uncle, like sort of started calling your neighbor's child or children like your cousin, where people can't even will not know if you guys are not related because there is this bond that you sort of build growing up. Because everybody, even to the point where sometimes some of these people or you all the kids started going to the same school, or some would go to a different school and whatever, and people started sharing it was like a community. It was born. It was a bond. Where did it all go wrong? The society kind of fell apart where people no longer want community. And we need to bring that back. We need to bring that back because it takes a village to raise good people. I mean, it took a village. We need to bring that back. And we get it. Lots of people are busy with their life and stuff. But again, you hear some people be like, oh, they don't want their family to visit them, or they don't want their family to know that this, or to come stay close to their kids because of how they were raised. But again, community is not that hard. You need community around. We need to bring that back. Enough of the isolation, enough of us being isolated. That's actually what even shaped lots of us who grew in that era, like to understand the dynamics of family, right? And growing up in community. We get people who are too isolated, and I don't know, let me know if that also was your experience, because I know it wasn't the same for lots of people grew up in a different era where it was them and their parents and they sort of had external help, and we're talking about maybe nanny and stuff and all that stuff. So some people like knew that it was just them, but some people, lots of people, I would say that the vast majority of people grew up in the era where it was community, like it was community that was raising you. You get? Where sometimes some community also have decision in your life as a child. True. You know, understand that if you grew up in communities like that.
Make some friends who have children. Now, that often is difficult for people too. When we were in Boston, we were the youngest people with the oldest kids that we knew. And we didn't start having kids till, well, we were in our late 20s. So,
Wow.
you don't know how much the situation has changed. And were people before more resilient?
Probably not. Well, maybe. I'm not sure. Torn on that.
It's very, very hard to say. I think their expectations for comfort were probably much lower. You know, like if I think of my grandmother, on my dad's side,
Oh,
her
you can't
niece.
choose that as an example.
Well, you can to some degree. I mean, she lived in a log cabin that was insulated with cardboard through the Saskatchewan winter, cooked for threshing crews, took care of multiple kids, worked as a cleaning woman for families in the neighborhood, and took care of a bunch of animals. Plus, she split all the wood for the winter. Like, her expectations for comfort were remarkably minimal. And that is a form of resilience, you know.
Makes you a little mean, though.
Well, there might be a resentment that goes along with that, you know.
Ah, possibly.
So I would beware of comparing yourself negatively generically to say women in the past. Like, the situations are very different.
Different, yes.
If you're overwhelmed, well, first of all, you do a situational analysis. Maybe it's expected that I'm overwhelmed because I have little kids.
Yeah.
And that's a 3-year problem fundamentally. And so just assume that, of course, and then look for help.
Yeah, help. A lot of these
help.
people
Trade help.
sounded like they're expecting too much of themselves and do need some help,
Yeah.
which I know is tricky because most of the time you have to pay for help. But
I'll close. We can close with another biblical story. So when Moses is called upon by God to be a leader after he has the interaction with the burning bush, God says, okay, you're no longer now just a shepherd, which was already something useful to be. You could take care of yourself. You could fight off the wolves. You could protect the innocent. So you're a good man. Now you're a leader. Moses says, I can't be a leader because I can't speak. And no one knows why, if he had a speech impediment or if he just wasn't very articulate or whatever. Doesn't matter. And God basically says three things. He says, it doesn't matter what your problem is, you still have to do this. So, like, that's your problem. And then he says, and don't be thinking that I can't operate under those conditions because I made the heavens and the earth. And so your speech impediment just really doesn't disturb me much. And then third, he says, and like, couldn't you get some help? Like, your brother, Aaron, he can speak. Bring him along. What does that mean? There's more than enough for everybody to do, you know, and you're not exactly asking for help when you reach out to other people. You're trading help, right? You're engaging in Benjamin Franklin said this, for example, when you move into a new neighborhood, he said, the first thing you should do is ask a neighbor for a small favor, a cup of sugar, something trivial. Why? Well, because they've done something for you. And you can get the trading game going. And so you're not asking for help. You're developing a community where you can share resources. And that's beneficial to everyone. It's not a favor.
churches are probably a good place for that.
Well, that's,
you know,
yes.
if you have no idea what to do.
Well, probably hypothetically and in reality. Right.
Yes.
Go to church, find some young families, and get the ball rolling. You know, if you have a problem as a mother of kids of a certain age, you can be certain that 80% of the mothers have the same problem.
Yes.
So there's absolutely no reason to assume. You made this comment with the trad wife movement. It's like, well, lone woman on the prairie taking care of 6 kids. Well, no. Right. Community.
Hi,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. Community. That is exactly my thoughts. Community. And we need to bring that back into the society. We need community. We need people to like help each other. Like, I don't, it's not a bad thing to ask for help. And I'm also saying this to myself. It's not a bad thing to ask for help. Learn to like your next door neighbor, like interact with people. You like the fact that we in this society sort of like stay comfortable in isolation, like just ourselves. Oh, it has to be me, 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 me. You can't do it. Sometimes like you need the help of others. You need others to help you. And also to talk about like the Bible, Moses per se. When Moses' mother, we're talking about that case now when Moses was born, when Moses was born, when Moses' mother couldn't hide Moses any longer. She sought help, right? She sort of took him out in the like, they sent the sister to keep him on the river, right? And guess what? That was when Pharaoh's daughter sort of came out to have a bath, and she saw the child and the sister, and she needed help to raise the child. Guess what? Who sort of helped? The sister went to call Moses' mother to help raise the child. So she raised her son, but she did not do it alone because she could not. She did not do it alone. She sort of had help that helped her raise a child. So you need that community because let's be honest, motherhood itself is a full-time job, is a job that nobody prepares you for, and there is no manual to it to doing it the right way. So you need help. You need help all the time. You need help with it. That's why I just say kudos to the mothers out there, and I always like stay grateful to my mom and like because it's not easy. It's not easy what these women do stay doing to like raise kids because it's their first time, and even sometimes the second time you never get it right. You might think you get it right but you never, but you need help. You need help. So yeah, community is very important and we need to bring that back in the society. We understand that lots of things are what, but we need the society, we need the community back. Let me know what you think. Did you were you raised in that kind of environment where you sort of grew up with lots of community around you and stuff? How was it like growing up? I want to know, and I want you to share your experience. And of course, lots of people may also not be able to relate to this because some people grew up in a different setting that they sort of had external help that was like um paid for, if you get what I mean. So some people may not understand that, but again, I don't think any help is too small to assist you in raising your kids, right? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.